So this is the second part of chapter 7. We're going to go over audio in this section, which is my specialty. I started doing audio long before I did video, although I go back all the way to the 60s and 70s with Super 8. So I go back to audio with reel-to-reel that I learned in the late 60s. That's how I learned how to play guitar and learned all my Beatles stuff. So the audio stuff, over here in the dashboard, there's something that looks like an iTunes icon. If you click it, see all these different things that your software should have come with. Now I have iLife, I don't know what is all on your computer, sound effects. I've got stuff from GarageBand and Logic that I have in here. But we're going to look at Final Pro sound effects. And in there you're going to see a lot of different sound effects. And in the lesson, we're going to look at some of these motor sounds. And you can play them on the bottom. And you can add these to your projects. You can either drag them right into the timeline or you can drag them into an event. So they'll get added. Let's say I want to add this. Usually what I do is add them to an event, but let's see what happens if I just drag this over to the project. Yep, it just goes right in there. So in this project, there's a thing where the garage door of the hangar is going up. And when you first put in the sound, it's usually way too loud. So let's see what that looks like and sounds like. And also right here, let me zoom in. There's an annoying thing in the beginning. So what I would do here is trim the beginning, maybe fade it in by moving the dot. Move all the sound over, and then bring the volume down. Just drag it down. And then let me play this all back. Still too loud, so let me bring it down to something like -18 or so.
Flying is something I've had.
Then it goes on forever and ever and ever. So I'm going to hit Command- and zoom out. And I'm going to find out where that sound should end. So somewhere by here it should be faded out. So what I'm going to do is make this a little longer and then fade out this sound. In addition, what I'm going to do, I don't know if the book says this or not, but I can make dots on this other one. I hope. All right, there we go. And what I'm trying to do is put some dots in here. Oh, I know why. I have to hit the Option key. So I want to hit the Option and click here a couple times so that I can bring the sound up here and then down. And that way it kind of blends in with the hangar noise. Although I do want it to fade in. So I'll move the fade handle. Try this one more time. I didn't like that either, so I'll fade in quicker and then the motor, make it a little bit quieter, maybe move it over. I don't really like it where it is. Move it over closer to where things start. Let's try this now. One more try.
Flying is something I've had a passion for since I was a little kid.
So I went a little drastic on the music, so maybe a little more subtle like this.
Flying is something I've had a passion.
And you can hear that motor just cutting off, so you don't want that. I'm going to fade the motor out as well. And I think I'll start it a little earlier. But I did not like the way it just cut off.
Flying is something I've had a passion for since I was a little kid. And really the passion is to...
Much better. The last adjustment I'm going to make is I still feel like the sound is a little loud in the music, so I'll lower that a little bit more. And then last try.
Flying is something I've had a passion for since I was a little kid.
So now what I have is a smooth transition that I like. And instead of some jarring sound, by the use of these fade handles and the use of some dots where you hit the option key and make the dots so you can adjust the volume up or down. That way these two tracks can blend into each other, and then when the voiceover starts you can hear it nice and loud. Now we're going to look at finding some audio that we can use from another clip, which is a little different than just grabbing it from the library. So this one in the book goes through the helicopter rotor, so we can play this clip here.
Meaning it takes on a whole new look.
So I didn't really have any sound of the helicopter starting. Now I could go to the sound effects here and definitely find a helicopter sound, and it would be there under helicopter usually. I don't see it there. Another place it would be, I have it in my, I have a lot of different kind of sound effects, but let's see. There's a whole bunch of them in there. I have Apple Loop, so I probably have some helicopters in there. Also, I can go to another program like Logic and find it. But in this case, we have a helicopter shot, which is DN9457. So if you go look at your primary media, we can listen to this. So it's kind of starting to rev up somewhere. I'm going to make an in point and an out point there. Now, if I just want the audio from this and not the video, there's a really cool arrow right here next to all these different input buttons. If you click it, it says all video only or audio only. That is super handy. So if I go to audio only and I go right where this clip is, maybe I'll go a little before just for some effect. I hit Q. There's that helicopter. You can see it's way too long, so maybe I'll shorten it up and align it with this clip. I'm going to make it a little softer as well because I think and fade it in before I even listen to it, because I'm pretty sure it needs all of that. My mouse is being stubborn right now. There we go. Okay.
Meaning it takes on a whole new look.
All right, so it needs to be longer, and I'll bring it into the next scene as well and fade it out because that's usually a good technique.
Meaning it takes on a whole new look.
So I can get the helicopter to come in. Another thing you can do with this is you can retime the audio. So the retiming menu, I can speed it up, or I can do that. I think the book does custom, so let me do that. Custom, so I can go and speed this up at different intervals, so I can do, like 200%, for example. There we go. And I can make this longer as well, so it'll sound different.
Meaning it takes on a whole new look.
So it kind of revved up faster. Let me show you that one more time.
Whole new meaning. It takes on a whole new look.
That was pretty cool. It sounded perfect, in fact. There's another way you can share audio. Besides sharing audio from a clip up here in the effects browser, you can pick a clip and double click it. What it does is it separates the audio and video. Now you can drag this video longer in the beginning or the end. So in this clip, it kind of cuts on and off.
It takes on a whole new look.
So it would sound better if the helicopter blades kind of blended into this canyon shot. So what I can do first is called an L cut. It looks like an L, where I just dragged some of the sound over here. And now the sound is going beyond the video. This is a super, super common thing. If you watch from now on any movie in between scenes, the sound doesn't cut on and off, it blends together. So listen to this now. And then what I could do then is fade that out into this clip. So let's listen to that. That's exciting. I can do that in the beginning as well. So the only problem is I need another lane. And so what I would have to probably do is lift this clip to do it. So let me lift from the storyline, and then I can drag it over here. So this looks like the letter J, so that's a J cut.
Meaning, it takes on a whole new look.
So much better. All you have to do to close it out is double click it, and I could put it back in the primary storyline if I want to. So I could drag it back in there where I had it in the first place and get rid of that gap clip. There we go. So I still have that, the J and L cuts here. There, you just can't see this other side. The J and L cuts are super simple in Final Cut. So the book goes through exercise up to 7.2.2, changing the volumes, and it's pretty simple. Again, double click, you can make these cuts and then the fades to blend sound together. What you don't want to do, which I never recommend, is right clicking and then if you separate the audio from the video, which is not that, let's see if I even know how to do this. Expand audio components, try that one. Oh, detach audio. That actually puts the audio in a whole different place and it could get out of line with the video, so I wouldn't recommend that. I'm going to hit Command Z and undo that. Now for some of these clips there's just some chatter, and in the book one of the clips is 94:54. So what I can do here, I'm going to solo that. It's Option S, or just click that button over there. Let's hear what that sounds like. So it's just junk. So in that case, I don't want that sound at all. Just pull the volume all the way down, and it says -infinity decibels. So now I've got that. Take the solo back off. By the way, when you're doing all these sound things, the sound meters, you should be watching those.
When you shoot something in the air, it takes on a whole new...
So if I get to a noisy one like helicopter blades, make sure these aren't peaking. If I double click those, let me get rid of this. Double click this, or single click, I get big sound meters on the right. So now I can look at those meters. So in this case, they were peaking just under -12 decibels. If I raise this too high, what's going to happen is I may go over 0. It almost went over 0, so let me try it. Let me go a little higher and to show you how that goes into the red. And it gives you what's called a peak hold. So this went 7 decibels over any acceptable level in video and audio. So you'd have to lower it down, or again, you can hit the Option key. You can make some dots and then just lower part of it down, like so. So you can go loud to soft if you want to. That's a little bit too much, but you get the idea. So you don't have to have a flat line if you don't want one. Now if you put these diamonds in, you can also click them and hit delete. I hope. Looks like it's not working on my computer right now. Which is probably because I'm doing a QuickTime recording, so I can't, my delete function is not working. But make use of these. If you want to get rid of them, just click the bars here next to the time code. So one of my favorite features in audio, and there are several, is the channel configuration. So if we have video, audio, and info, don't forget over here. How did I get to that? It's in the dashboard in the inspector. Open that and pick audio. You're going to see this window. So I'm going to look at this clip here, Mitch, and let's look at this for a second. I'm going to solo it. Go ahead and find my little headphones there, solo. What we're going to look at is these meters when we're playing Mitch's clip.
Nobody's really ever seen before, or maybe in that.
So the left one is hotter than the right one, meaning he probably had a lavalier mic and this was probably the camera. So these were really not stereo. It's really two separate monos. I fix this all the time, and this is how you do it. So I've got his clip selected. In fact, I could shift click all of Mitch's clips in the whole project and do this at the same time as well. So in the channel configuration, I can split it up into the different monos. So dual mono. And then I can look at these. Here's the first one.
Capture something that nobody's really ever.
So that's up there at -8. The second one
That nobody's really ever seen.
is like -18. So that's not the one I want. I'm just going to uncheck that. So that's all you have to do when you play this back now.
Nobody's really ever seen before, or maybe in.
It takes that mono channel that's left and makes them even stereo automatically. This is something in the old versions you had to do manually. All you have to do now is just pick the one that you want, and it comes out in even stereo.
Nobody's really ever seen before, or maybe in that.
That's why I love it so much. Another thing in this area, so you know about it, are pan modes, which are stereo, but if you wanted like a surround sound panning, if you have the opportunity to do that, you can hit create space and you have a surround sound panner. So now you can pan your sound to the back speakers, front speakers. You can automate them to go back to front. So I do this mix when I'm doing videos, and I'm going to make a DVD or streaming in 5.1 so that people can listen in surround. So if I have music, I usually use create space. There's also music, which gives you something similar, and so these are really fun. Ambient, which is more in the back sound. Dialogue, which is all in the front. So you can put these on different tracks if you're mixing in surround. Or you can go back to stereo right and left, which is what I had before. So now I have
Nobody's really ever seen before, or maybe in that.
even stereo. Let me unsolo that. Another thing in here they mention is roles. So here in the library index or timeline index, if you open it up, we were on clips before, I think, all clips. So we can go to roles, and what that gives you is what are the different roles. So if you want to affect the channel configuration in a certain kind of role, like all the dialogue, you can uncheck the other ones and then just have the dialogue. And as long as they're assigned correctly, you can see the other ones went away. It'll just affect just the dialogue. So turn them all back on. So that's a shortcut using roles. Of the text it talks about more keyframes and then mixing the volumes by, it's called ducking and swelling, which means you're going to use option click, and then you can, what you want to do is when somebody's talking, for example, if the music's too loud, you can make some dots around that point, and then you can lower the volume if needed. So around those points, or even raise it. Let me take that all back out and zoom out a little bit. Command minus. So you can do that. So let's say he's talking here. If I had this thing louder and then I wanted to kind of lower it when he came in, I can hit the option key and then the dots, and then just lower it when he's talking, and then listen to that. I messed up a little bit. Make one more dot. All right. There we go. It needs a couple of dots on each side to have an anchor, so.
And really the passion is to be able to capture something.
So let me lower it even a little more there. So that's called ducking.
Since I was a little kid. And really the passion is to be able to capture something.
So if I'm trying to get something out of the way, then I can bring it back up at the end.
It takes on a whole new look.
That helicopter was way too loud. I was messing with it before.
But when you shoot something from the air, it takes on a whole new meaning. It takes on a whole new look.
So you get the idea. So you can go through that. Another nice thing they have is the range tool. So in the tools, I forgot before we were playing with just this menu here. I'm going to put it back on all before I forget. There's a tool called Range Tool, or R, and that means you can draw a box around any area. What I love about this is now you can raise and lower the audio within the box, and it makes the keyframes for you, so you don't even have to make the keyframes. They just do it for you, so it makes 2 per side. If I do another box maybe here where he's talking, and I want to lower this a little bit there, see what it did is it made 2 keyframes on each side, perfectly spaced, and so it brings the volume. You just drag the bar down at that point.
One thing that is interesting, when we are flying and shooting and filming at the same time.
I love it. So the range tool, you can make these 4 dots and do it, or just use the range tool draw box and then drag the bar down, which is super handy. I really like that one a lot. And I think, oh, there's one more really awesome thing that you can do with volume. If you want to do a bunch of volumes at the same time and try not to remember like what you're doing on each clip. Let's say, for example, I'm going to go back to the arrow tool, this volume, and then I'll shift click this volume, and you want to raise them all at the same time. Hit Control and then plus or minus, but you have to make sure it's the plus or minus on the top of your keyboard. Do not use plus or minus on a number pad on the right side. Those don't work. So Control plus, watch what it does. It raises both volumes at the same time, the same amount. So I can hit or minus. So if you're, there it goes. My computer's running a little behind. Now you can see them going down together as I hit Control minus. So let's say you have dialogue and you decided all needs to be louder. You can select all the audio at the same time, like even all of these, for example, and then hit Control and then the plus. Again, not with the number keys, but the plus above your letters. And now I'm going to raise all those volumes at the same time. Or I can lower them. So that way you get consistent volume raise and lower. The next part of this book is huge, and in the book it's very small. It's called Understanding Audio Enhancements. So let's look at the automatic enhancements first, then I'm going to show you some of the plugins. The automatic ones come from Final Cut's older versions, and it's kind of like made simple. So if you have some problem audio, you can go into the magic wand and show audio enhancements. It has 3 things here: loudness, background noise, and hum removal. And all you have to do, when something is bad, it'll turn red. Let's see if I can maybe make something turn red here with loudness or something. All you have to do is click the box to turn this on, and then you'll be changing things. There may be a clip in the book that has an example. Let's see. No, they don't have one. I usually get this if I have air conditioning in the background or something. One of the things it doesn't remove is wind noise. So if you're getting wind, you need to fix your microphone problem by covering the microphone with Zeppelin or a windscreen. But if you're getting hum from like air conditioning and you hear it, all you have to do is turn this on and the 60 cycle hum goes away. It's simple, but it's a very complicated algorithm behind this to get rid of that sound for you. It's analyzing the waveforms and then getting rid of the sounds. Now, I've heard that Adobe Audition has some fantastic tools for this as well, where you can see all the different waves and then pick the stuff you want to get rid of. So that's another idea. So that's the automatic sound enhancement stuff. So it's easy to do. It's just a box, you turn it on or off, and then the amount of removal or loudness that you want. So pretty simple. There's another whole thing in the book that I don't think that the book goes over. So I'm going to show you where all of this is. If you've ever used an audio program, the same tools are in here as well. So where are they? They're effects. So if I go into the effects area, it's right here, effects. So we've seen video effects, and I think I can't remember if that went through the audio effects, but they're under the video effects. So here's all. So you can make, there's silly stuff like alien. So if I had this guy here, let me solo it so you can hear this sounding like an alien, which would be silly. I could just drag it on top of there, and
you're kind of overcome by the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot,
and up here in my inspector, I can mess around with that effect as well. Anytime you see these little boxes, these are mixers. So if I click on the mixer, I actually get the plugin from Logic. So you don't have to own Logic. These are embedded in Final Cut Pro. So if you're really savvy, you can make someone to Alien, open the mixer, and then mess with it here.
By the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot, I get very technical and
So you can do crazy stuff with this. Now, if you don't like that, just like the video effects, you can click it and hit delete, and it'll go away. So what I really use is not that. Here's a fun one just to show you. Helium.
You're kind of overcome by the imagery of what you're shooting.
So that's totally awesome. Again, I can look at the mixer in Helium, and it has tone, so I can change that.
As a
pilot, I get
very technical and inspired by.
So I'm going to get rid of that. So all you have to do is drag them on there. You can drag as many things as you want on there. So it's basically filling up your mixer spots. What I like to use is the Logic plugins that I'm used to. So if I go down far enough, whoop, I passed it. There they are. Here's the Logic plugins, and I think on top of this set, it says Logic right on top of it. These are them, Logic. Okay. So some things I'm used to, the channel EQ. So if I want to EQ his voice, put the EQ on there. Open my mixer. Here's the EQ I'm used to. So I can analyze his voice now. So I'm going to go ahead and click the analyzer.
By the imagery of what you're shooting.
So he's over here around 500 hertz. If I wanted to make his voice a little more prominent, and if there was any maybe extra sound and take out the low cut, all of these things, if you haven't learned them about audio or taught in our audio courses, like I teach Digital Media 111, which is audio for video, and that's where I go over all this stuff. But you'll hear he's a little more prominent now.
You're kind of overcome by the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot, I get very technical and inspired by.
So in this plugin, you can accentuate sounds. You can take out low or high sounds, which these are high and low pass filters. So if you have noise in there, you can do these ones here at the end. You can, this is called peaking, or if you lower this, dipping frequencies to take frequencies out. So you have those kinds of choices. Another one you can use, and these I think must be in the advanced book, but I'll show you them. Compressor, so I'll put a compressor on there. Open the mixer up. So I can even out his voice by changing the threshold and the gain. So let me show you what that looks like.
By the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot, I get very technical and inspired by making sure that we.
What it does, it evens out his voice a little bit so it doesn't have so many peaks and valleys. So right now I am kind of, the peaks of his voice are going down around 5 decibels, and you'll see a bar going this way. That means it's compressing the peaks of the highest parts of his voice.
You're kind of overcome by the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot, I get.
So I usually use compressors on voices. Another thing you can use is a reverb, which is going to make it sound like it's more, like it's in a bigger space. And we have Space Designer, and I think there's reverb somewhere here, but since I can't locate it right now, I'm just going to go to Space Designer and open up the mixer and then show you what that sounds like. And there's all kinds of sounds in here. And again, for more on these, you could do a class, and there's a whole bunch of defaults here. So I'll do a kind of a small space. So maybe let's try this one.
Very technical by the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot.
So you can hear that sounds terrible because I put them in a small room. So, but you can change the space people are in with Space Designer if you want to. So you can make them like into like a giant space, like, let's go outdoors. And this is going to sound really silly, but.
You're kind of overcome by the imagery of what you're shooting. As a pilot, I get very technical and inspired by making sure that.
So a real large ring, and I can control the amount of it on this thing. Now, If I want this here, but I decide I just don't want it, or I want to bypass it, I can hit the square and it goes away.
As a pilot, I get very tech.
So it's there, but it's turned off. Or again, I can always select it and then delete the entire plugin. So now I still got the EQ and compressor. So there are a ton of plugins. All you got to do is drag them around. And remember, the order is important. So the bottom one affects the ones above it, just like in the video effects. The last part of this chapter, as far as audio, is a voiceover tool. And this is really simple and fun to use. And it's under, let's see, Window, Record Voiceover. So there's, right now, I'm using a USB mic right now, which is the Blue Yeti. I bought it because it looks like R2-D2, and it sounds really good. So what you get this little window, and then there's a triangle next to Advanced. And then you have some settings to deal with. So you might want to name this. So I'll just call RW Voiceover 1 maybe, because they're going to save these somewhere. Input gain. If it's too low, you're going to get a teeny tiny waveform. And if it's too high, everything's going to be distorted. So you have to kind of play with it and make sure you're getting the right level. And you probably want to do test recording and make sure that your peaks are around -6 decibels. Again, look over here on your meters when you're recording, you'll be able to tell. Input. So I'm using the blue mic, so let's see what happens if I go blue mono 1. Check, 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 check. Hello, hello. So it sounds really low. Let's see if I do blue stereo. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. And maybe, so I don't know why it's so low, but yes I do, because I have a mic pre-over on my microphone and I've got it set too low. So I would have to go on my microphone and change the input, which will probably mess up my recording, so I'm not going to do that. So maybe I'll go, just for this demonstration, do input, built-in microphone. Hello, hello. Okay, we're back. And then if you want to monitor this in headphones, you have a gain for that. I have my monitor off right now. And I've got it on a countdown. Mute project while recording, create audition from takes. So it's going to create new sound files. And this is the event it's going to go in. So once you set it up, all you have to do is hit record. So let me try this. I'm actually going to go to the beginning of my project. This is a video on helicopters, and I hope you enjoy it. And that, folks, was it. So what I've got now is a new sound file down here. I can check my gain on this. I'm going to go ahead and solo this and look at my meters and see what I got. This is a video on helicopters, and I hope you enjoy it. So it's a little low, so I would bring the mic pre-up more and redo it. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Bring the mic pre-up again and redo it. And do this again. Hello everyone, this is a video about helicopters and flying over canyons. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm going to listen back now. Maybe not on solo. Okay. Got to solo the new stuff. Here we go. Hello everyone, this is a video about helicopters and flying over canyons. I hope you enjoy it. So my volume was just right at -6. What you want to do is end up between -6 and 0 as optimal volume and then mix it later. The reason is because you want big waves to work with. If you have really small waves, when you add EQ and compressor and things like that, it barely has any effect. So any recording you should do should be between -6 and 0. So -6 is kind of a safe bet right there. That concludes the chapter on sound, and I hope you do use the voiceover tool, especially because it has the countdown. You can do voiceovers, you can do dialogue replacement with that right in Final Cut 10. And the next section in this chapter will be on color. So the next part of the chapter 7 is on color, and you can do most things in this program using the color it has. There's also DaVinci and DaVinci Lite, which are super popular in the field. So If you have those, you may want to look at those. They're a little bit more advanced, but for most projects, this is fine, and I use it for just about everything. So let's go over what the features are of color here. I added at the end of this project 2 clips, 9287 and then the wall composite, which are 2 different looking helicopter clips to work with. So one thing I can do, this clip is very blue. I can just automatically balance the color, and a lot of times this is all you need to do. So you go to the magic wand and hit balance color. I can actually look at that video clip, and it says you can see it like balanced and unbalanced. So if I unclick it, it should be very blue. If I click it, it should be less blue, although it's still rendering. So let me give it a minute. So it's analyzing that. There we go. Okay. So try it again. If I unclick it, it's very blue. If I click it, less blue. You can tell by the kind of gray wall that it's turned gray instead of so blue. So when I unclick it, this is quite blue. So that's one way to do it. Another thing you can do, if I don't have that done, let me undo that, is I can do this manually by going in here and showing the color board. Show color board. And I get this color board. In addition, I can click the arrow and have video scopes. So I can see the red, green, and blue and yellow there. Under histogram, under vector scope, I get a scope with the color wheel. Basically, you can see red and blue. This is typical color wheel. This right here is the skin tone line. And we'll look at all these. And then the waveform, which is brightness and dark and bright. So you can see the video here is darker here and brighter here with the white garage doors. Okay, I'll go back to histogram. So I could correct this automatically. I can come over here. I got color, saturation, and exposure. In this case, I can just look at color, and I get a choice between global, shadows, midtones, and highlights. So if I pick global, maybe let's see what that looks like if I take the blue out. So it pretty much makes that wall gray again. So I like that. So that's another way to do this. Another thing, if I wanted to oversaturate, I can bring that way up and make everything oversaturated. When I undersaturate, you can go all the way to black and white. Takes all the color out. Looking at the waveform, if I go to exposure, if I start underexposing it, you can see the light, the luminance curves going down, overexposing it, going above 100, not what we want. So you want them between 0 and 100. So these pucks are pretty simple. I'd read about luminance, which is light, and chrominance, color, in the book as well. Another thing that the chapter gives you is, or the software gives you, are presets. So you can go to a preset and have kind of a look for your movie, or you can save your own preset. That way you can apply whatever look it is to other clips without having to change the settings again. So let's go to Alien Lab just to see what that is. So it's like greeny. So like if maybe you have a shot that's a flashback or something, and you can use that look. So it changes your pucks for you, and you can still change them from there if you want. Command Z and undo that. The other thing here, just as always, if you don't want any changes, you can always hit the clicked arrow in all these settings and it'll go back to normal. Going back to here, there's color corrections, which I don't think the book goes over, but there's a lot of things you can do with color. So I can do like a color mask. So if I wanted to change the color of something, I can take an eyedropper, and then now you can see like there's red in the mask, and I can make the red brighter or softer, do things with the red. Or I can take like a part of the wall and then do something with that. So and you can add more corrections. So and add another one. So I could take part of the helicopter, and then, or I can maybe blur out a logo doing that. So taking a mask. So And this is something that I usually have to play with, like you can see here. So there we go. So you can add as many corrections as you want. And then there's another thing you can do, and this is why I have two clips here. They're really different looking. The helicopters, different kind of colors and cast and everything. This one's a little bit more vibrant, so if you want to match them a little bit closer, you can hit the first clip and go to match color here. It's also in this menu down here, match color. Then it will ask you, what do you want to match it with? And let me cancel that because I want to go the other way. I want to start with this one and go to match color. And then I want to match it to this one. So I'm going to pick that. And it basically takes a picture of that and then apply match. And you can see this is rendering now. So this helicopter should look a little bit more like that one, or this shot here. I think it still doesn't have the same blue intensity as that one does. So what I would do in that case would be go to back to the color stuff, show color board, and make that one a little bit more blue. And that'll probably do the trick. So that they don't look so different. So I'd read about that in the book, and luminance, chrominance, the vector scope, and matching color, and I think that's it.